Those are big questions that can be answered. So let's answer them, because they are also worth answering. This goes towards finding the answer to seek and ye shall find. This goes towards understanding the purpose for your existence. Man, know thyself goes towards that. So let's start by using some relatively well understood now terms such as virtual reality, and explain what that has to do with the perceived reality that we experience every day. Why should this matter to you? Virtual reality. We talked about that in the last presentation. Why is it important? What's it to the average person in the street? We know that it's a way of modeling reality, and that it's competing with the materialistic viewpoint, which is about space, time, energy, mass. And in the virtual reality, you also have time, space is computed, energy is computed, and mass is computed. Everything is computed and presented. The only thing that they have in common is time. Other than that, they have completely different ways of looking at reality. But from the interesting scientific viewpoint is that virtual reality solves a lot of the big mysteries, the paradoxes in science. Quantum mechanics, why are they described in the manner that they are in the things? Why speed of light? Why is it a limit? Why is there a speed of light limit? These types of things. Well, those types of things, such as quantum entanglement and things like that, there's answers to all of that. Virtual reality affords us to explain all of that, but that really doesn't concern the average person in the street. Average person really isn't that interested about the details of physics. What's important is, meaningful to the everyday person about virtual reality is that it makes some pretty profound statements about why we're here, what we're doing here, why do we exist. It can answer for you the purpose of life, the point of your existence. How do I know what's right from wrong? How do we determine what's ethical and what's not ethical? These are big questions, and people might tell you, well, that ethics thing, that right and wrong is all relative. Some things that are right in some places are wrong in other places, and it just depends on the matter of your perspective and what people agree to, how they see the world. But that's not actually true. There are absolute truths, and there are absolute truths in ethics. And you do have a very specific purpose for existing, for living, for struggling the struggles that you find yourself in. And this life experience is just a lifetime. You are consciousness, and consciousness is immortal. And that's a huge statement, but it's true. That is what you are. That is what mankind is. There never was a time when man was not. That's consciousness. Your body is the computed avatar, and that computation has to occur someplace else, or in what they call other than here. That computation has to take place in a place other than this physical objective reality. We interpret this as physical, whereas the other we consider or understand it as being non-physical. Let's call it subjective reality. The physical reality does not exist in a dream state. And while we're here, our dream reality appears not to be physical reality. So physical and non-physical is a determinant of the observer. And if your body is just an avatar that's being computed, then that computer and that consciousness that's playing it have to both be non-physical. They also have to be fundamental. You see, if this is a virtual reality, not only is the computer and the consciousness non-physical, this idea about your brain creating consciousness is totally wrong, which is you as a consciousness is immortal, but it also means you have a purpose and a point for existing. Virtual realities just don't exist for no reason. There's always a reason for something to exist logically. And this universe would not exist, the resources would not be expended if it were not important. So what is your job here? What is it that brings you? What brought you into this physical reality, this physical perception? Well, you're supposed to grow up here. You're supposed to improve the quality of your consciousness. You are supposed to be evolving your consciousness, you see. The computer and the player are both consciousness. Consciousness is an information system. And part of that information system serves as a computer. Part of it serves as the player. Your player is playing because it needs to have experience and to make choices. And by the quality of those choices, you either evolve or devolve the quality of your consciousness. And this is a hard thing to do, because a conscious being makes good choices and learns, and it actually becomes a different being. It changes itself. What it is, who it is, it's not a matter of acting. It doesn't have to act better or act higher quality. It has to be better. And changes in being actually change the being, which means you become something else. This is something that takes a lot of experience, a lot of choices, a lot of decisions. And we have to learn how to let go of our fears, let go of our beliefs, let go of our egos in order to grow up. Now in science, this is called lowering entropy. Lowering entropy, and entropy is a measure of disorder. So the more disorder you have in your consciousness, then the higher the entropy in your consciousness or of your consciousness. The less disorder you have, the more information you have, then the lower the entropy is in your consciousness. And we can make a logical connection, which we don't have time to explain it all, but we'll go into it. And there is a logical connection between lowering the entropy of your consciousness and becoming love, letting go of ego, not being self-centered, being cooperative with others, caring, compassion. All of these things are low entropy behaviors, low entropy ways of being. And that's what you're here for, to learn to become love. Not just act loving. We're not talking about acting. We're talking about becoming love. You are immortal in the sense that when this body ceases to exist, it's just like an avatar in a video game. What happens? Well, either you go get a new avatar or you resurrect the old and you get back in the game. Same thing occurs in reality. When this physical avatar passes, you receive a new, and you continue to exist. And why do we need this virtual reality in order to do this? Because this reality gives us choices. It gives us things, performances, tasks that need to be done. That's the way it works. We have a lot of choices to do. It's very interactive. The choices we have in other people's life affect them. The things they do affect us. There's new crises, there's new challenges, there's new things which must do to make choices about. And all of these choices will lead to your evolution or your de-evolution, depending on whether or not you make them in the spirit of caring and giving and selflessness, or if you're doing it relative to greed and self-centeredness and fear, no trust. That's why you're here. You have multiple opportunities. You are immortal. You have a task and jobs to do. You have a mission. You have a reason for your existence. In performing that mission, instead of just looking at life as how can I control the things in my life to make my life turn out the way I want it to be, so that my spouse is the way I want her to be or him to be, or that my children are the way I want them to grow up, or so that my employer or employees are the way I want them to be. I want to manipulate everything. I want to control everything I can to make sure they occur in the manner that I want. But that's very dysfunctional. But that's what most of us do. Instead, what you should do is accept the things which do come, mostly the things which you cannot control, and understanding that most of the things in your reality you can't at this point control. But what's important is not the outcome, but is how you deal with that thing that's happening to you. How do you deal with that challenge? How do you deal with that pain, that joy? How do you deal with the things that occur in your life? Exactly what happens to you, yeah, that's still important, but not nearly as important as how you deal with the events in your existence. So if we put our focus on accepting those things which we cannot control and dealing with them in a positive, caring, cooperative way, then we optimize our lessons here. This virtual reality is a huge schoolhouse. It's an incubator to make these types of choices with consequences. That's why we're here. That's why this virtual reality means something to everyone. Because if you do that, if you do grow up, if you do evolve, become more cooperative, caring, less ego, less belief, less fear, you'll find that your life becomes wonderful. You'll live in a state of joy, bliss, more smiles. You'll be happy, you'll be more positive. You'll become one of those persons that are fun to be around because you're very positive. And life will work for you. Whatever you feel is important to your growth will be there just when you need it, just in time. I guarantee you. The reality system rewards those who are working towards becoming love, instead of those that are filled with fear and ego and belief systems, because they struggle. And every time they think, well, if I can just get this last thing, exactly how I want it, everything else would be great. And of course, when they get that one thing, they find it doesn't work out. That $1 million didn't do it, didn't bring you happiness. It's just the way it is. And of course you think you know the way it's supposed to be because you have this huge ego, and then you know everything. But it's not true, you don't. Neither do I. But what I'm telling you here is true. You can make life very enjoyable. And there's a way in which to effectuate this. If you're always feeling as if you're in a perpetual struggle, that you seem like you can never get to where you want to go, and people are never doing the things you want them to do, or life is just not working out, if you're always in this soap opera type of life, just on the treadmill, trying to get from moment to moment, dealing with the pain and strife of circumstances, and life is just happening to you. But it doesn't need to be, because you can turn that around and find happiness. You'll find that all your relationships will get better, with your significant other, with your kids, with your employees, with your employer. Everything gets better. That's why it's important to the average person to understand, because this will change your life if you understand the consequences of this being a virtual reality, to understand that you are consciousness. You're not a body. If you understand that this non-physical world with computer and the fundamental reality, and this computed reality is really a manufactured reality, then a lot of things will fall into place, and there's a lot of logical consequences, cause and effect, that are attached to that. And you'll find you will become far more of a happy person. A lot less struggle will exist. These are part of the things that you will solve, because you will be evolving positively. It is a reward system. That's why it's important to the average person on the street. Everything will begin to work out. And the more that you begin to understand how it works, the easier it will be for you to change who you are and become that happy person. That person in which very positive things are happy in your life and happening in your life that are positive. These are all logically derived. This is scientific. This is all the science of how things actually operate in a real world cause and effect, physical reality, objective as well as subjective. This is the system. So what we're going to do is we're going to go into understanding this a little bit better. All right?